What I've done is I've kind of like found ways to use common products and call them something else.
I love that. Don't reinvent it.
I work with clients who typically have a team of developers, but they have other priorities. For us to show a return on their investment in a short amount of time and not have to wait on their team to implement was important at the time. There's plenty of people that are going to switch to the ChatGPT search. Of course, that's like another demographic, but a large portion of people are going to stay with what they know.
My guest today is Ricky Weiss, head of SEO for social media. With over a decade of experience in SEO, Ricky leads the SEO department he built from the ground up at the company. Since starting the team 5 years ago, he's grown it to 5 full-time experts working with over 20 brands across both D2C and B2B markets. Known for his quote-unquote severe passion for digital marketing, I love that, Ricky has secured top 3 rankings for clients on highly competitive keywords, frequently surpassing giants like Target, Amazon, and Home Depot. His team's commitment to excellence was recently recognized as a finalist for the Best Overall SEO Initiative Small Business Award from Search Engine Land. As an entrepreneur at heart, Ricky has launched several side projects, with Chronic Sports Cards being his latest business. When he's not strategizing, you'll find him on a golf course or enjoying time with friends and family. Ricky Weiss, my new friend, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
You are more than welcome, my friend. I'm very much looking forward to it, continuing our off-air conversation, which was amazing.
Absolutely.
So, let's jump in. And I want to start with the beginning, I believe, is where you said to me, from domain purchase to SEO director, and how buying a domain name led to a website, and talk about your origins here.
Yeah, absolutely. I had to have been 12 years old. I think I've owned sailboatfinder.com now for just about 19 years. But my dad was looking for domain names for a business my mom wanted to start. They kind of sparked my interest. I thought it was really cool being able to like buy a piece of the internet. So I found the domain Sailboat Finder. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I eventually purchased the domain name. My dad purchased it for me. And then kind of decided I wanted to create a domain or a sailboat classified website on it. Had no idea how to do that. But basically for years, this was like an ongoing project that I, have interest for and then lose interest. But ultimately I learned how to build a sailboat classified website. From there it was about, getting people to the site and learned SEO in the process. Trying to get pages, the sailboat pages to rank for the terms like hunter sailboat, the manufacturers, the types of boats, things like that. Learned, content and writing about the particular manufacturers. And it kind of just sparked this, further ongoing interest to SEO. So that was kind of the initial story. I had a bunch of other projects along the way where I learned marketing. I think that's probably how a lot of people get into SEO. But I really attribute like all of those little side projects back to, how I learned how to do this and ultimately how I started my career in SEO.
I love that. I mean, you were 12 years old, right? You're just having fun. And you didn't even realize you were learning at the same time.
Yeah. I really didn't. It was just kind of like, the interest of trying to get somebody to view my website that kept me going. And I just loved that. I liked looking at the analytics and seeing, like, at the time it was like, if one person came to the website, I was like thrilled. It just like, you learn all the different pieces. I learned how to build the website, learned how to, get the proper images, I was using a CSV export from another manufacturer's website or another like listing website to my website and imported all of their listings onto my site. So, you learn a lot in the process. And I think that's at least the way I learn.
I think there's something to be said, and maybe you kept some of this and never thought of this until now, that innocence of youth.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely right.
There's something about, not knowing and just going into it like, right? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I think, for me, it was like, I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how complicated this was. And, I wasn't afraid to fail, because I had nothing to lose. So yeah, there is a certain beauty in that.
Well, now think about the flip side is you're 12 years old and your teacher tells you, makes this an assignment. You're not going to go into it the same way.
No, that's 100%. I mean, I didn't graduate college. That's another, part of my story, but I learned so much while being at college. Like I freelanced throughout all 4 years of college. And, that's what my interest was. I was building websites for people. I had a little side business doing that. And that's how I learned.
Was that one that you told me about, Elite Yo-Yo?
So Elite Yo-Yo was post college.
Okay.
But it's a funny story. What happened was at my current job, I work for Socio Media, as you mentioned. We work with a lot of D2C clients, one of which is a product development brand or like firm that wanted to create their own project or product and kind of sell their own in-house product because they were doing this for a lot of other people. But they researched niches where there wasn't like an Apple of that particular niche. There wasn't, a company or a brand that people were loyal to in that particular niche. So I learned that. I thought that was interesting. Then I watched a documentary on Netflix about the yo-yo championships that happen like every year, right? And I remember a particular quote from that documentary when they said, they call them throwers, but these people will change their yo-yo strings every 30 minutes. And I thought, that's unbelievable. That's a lot of yo-yo strings. And my initial thought was like, well, is there a brand people are loyal to in yo-yo strings? And from my research, they're, the main yo-yo companies that, people have probably seen at like Walmart or whatever it might be, but there wasn't like a cool brand in yo-yo strings. So my thought was, let's buy some yo-yo strings from, AliExpress or Alibaba. I'm going to, repackage them, create a brand, sell them on Amazon. And, not a lot of money to invest in this because you could get 1,000 yo-yo strings for literally $10 or so. And, I learned how to build a small product and put it on Amazon. So that was another venture. It was one of the ones where I was selling strings, but you eventually learn that it's too inexpensive of a product to really be profitable on Amazon.
Yeah.
The price point was like $5 to like $6.99. With ads, you're barely breaking even.
No margin. Yeah.
Yeah. So learned a lot. But
yeah. So now chronic sports cards, as you call it, you're finding your niche 2.0. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So similar thought process. COVID hit though at this point, and we're all locked in our houses and whatnot. Sports cards, I noticed, were sort of having like a revival. A lot of people were starting to break sports cards, meaning, you buy a box of sports cards that are maybe $1,000 and you split that box amongst multiple people who buy into it and they're streaming this. So I see that, there's new ways of selling, things like that. Ultimately, I live near a sports card shop. I walk in one day, I buy one pack of sports cards and I end up hitting like a $300 card from like a $20 investment. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Sold the card on eBay like right away. It was a Zach Wilson before his rookie year, before he really played for the Jets and, didn't find much success. But at the time, people wanted his card. But from there, what I learned is with all of these breakers, I kind of wanted to be that breaker too. I wanted to stream and kind of, do what they were doing, but I didn't really want to actually stream. Like I wanted to have the business, but I didn't want to stream, but I knew how to like customize my setup so it looked professional. I customized my own card mats and signs and backdrops. And I learned I could just sell that to the breakers, kind of like provide the gold digger with the shovel or whatever they say, or the miner with the shovel, if you will. So what I do is I sell custom sports cards accessories for breakers or for card shops. And it's very niche again, but it has been my most successful side project since, and I'm still working on it to this day.
Something tells me it won't be your last.
Yeah.
Just a gut.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it won't be. I've tried everything. I could go on about, any type of entrepreneurial venture that you've seen in a TikTok video and whether it will work or not. But this one, I'm using some of the common print on demand and things like that to help, scale my business. So, there's ways for it to work. And what I've done is I've kind of like found ways to use common products and call them something else.
I love that.
So
Don't reinvent it.
yeah, exactly. Just
I love that.
Yep.
Exactly. The wheel's already done. Don't change it. Let me pivot here. I want to get into your move, right? Your physical move from Connecticut to New York City.
Yes.
Was that a big? I know. Talk to us about that, because that when I heard you mention that, my first thought was, oh, was that like a culture shock moment in his life? Did he go from this little town of one stoplight to into the deep end of the pool? Tell us about what that did, that move from Connecticut, how big of a move culturally, personally, everything was.
Yeah. So being in Connecticut growing up, New York's always been a 2-hour train ride, hour and a half back in the day. So I've always been familiar with New York, always wanted to live in New York, never had the opportunity to until one day I received a LinkedIn message, and Owen and Sam at SEO Media, the two founders, they're like, hey, we're trying to build an SEO department. You seem like a great person, the right fit. Would you be open to something like that? And my now wife, Molly, and I, at the time, wanted to move. We had gone into Brooklyn literally like a week or so before, and we were like, we could do this. So the timing was just perfect. Ultimately interviewed with them, got the job, commuted for 4 months or so before we finally moved. Molly switched her job as well. So, the timing was perfect. We ended up there about a month before COVID. So finally moved in. Things were great. Things were normal. And then COVID hit and, the city changed, but, I loved it. We've since moved back to Connecticut from New York City, but the time there was amazing. I think it is a change for sure. Going from I live in it's a smallish town, I think 30,000 people or so, to a major city. The lifestyle is just so different. Not having a car in the city was a big change for us. Being able to easily leave the city without a car is a little difficult. Shopping was a change, having to walk back to the apartment up 5 flights of stairs with all of your groceries is a big change compared to driving in a car. But it's great. I learned a lot while I was there, got to experience a lot of really good food. I think that's one thing that I miss a lot is you could find any individual, sect of a country's type of food, wherever you are in New York.
And 24 hours a day. Yeah.
Yeah. And 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Have anything you want delivered. I remember telling my parents, I'm like, yeah, we get our laundry picked up and delivered and folded for us. And she'd never even heard of something like that. So the options there were very eye opening.
I can only imagine. You've been at Socium for 5 years.
Yes.
Right. And you've built it up from the ground up to now 5 full time, right? With you. So 6 total.
5 total, including myself.
5 total. Okay, including yourself. But that's pretty rapid, to build and scale an entire SEO division, right? So I want my listeners and viewers to learn, excuse me, it's almost agnostic of what kind of division you're in. Talk about just building a team, the challenges, the rewards, the obstacles of scaling, a team from the ground up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Obviously, I was a one-man team when it started, and things are very difficult, and you quickly learn where the gaps are. For me, I could do SEO, right? I could write a title tag. I could write a meta description. But when I need somebody to implement it, who do I go to? Actually add it to the website. So that was one gap. We needed a developer. We needed somebody on the team who could easily take the work that I'm putting together and then implement it, actually go into the back end of whatever client site that we're working with, whether it's Shopify or WordPress or Webflow or something custom or, Magento, whatever it might be, and be able to implement our actual work, because most clients are coming to us and they're like, you do the SEO, right? And many times they're developers. Often I work with clients who typically have a team of developers, but they have other priorities. And for us to show a return on their investment in a short amount of time and not have to wait on their team to implement was important at the time. The other gap or hole that I found was content. So if we want to retain clients long term, there's definitely some technical SEO stuff we could do, but we also need to be contributing new content to the website. We need to be blogging for them, creating landing pages. So initially, before ChatGPT, I was using, whatever GPT model was available, copied AI and all of those things to write my own content for our clients. Right. But I didn't feel great about that. I felt like now people are into ChatGPT. Then it was like a turnoff. So I found that we needed writers. We started, looking for content editors or a content manager that could join the team. We quickly found our current associate director of content, Jillian, and she was a perfect fit. She was somebody who was coming from another company where they dissolved their department. So they had a content team that was already set up, but one day, a larger brand brought them and they're like, we don't need this anymore. We caught her at the perfect time.
Yeah.
She had all of these writers that she worked with at the company. Everyone had kind of lost their job. We ultimately hired Jillian. And then with that, she came with 12 great relationships with writers who are published authors. They have master's degrees in creative writing and things like that. So it was a great hire for us. And it's been a service that we've been able to offer in addition to just SEO, but SEO and content to kind of retain our clients and build that long-term relationship.
You mentioned ChatGPT, so we got to talk about the elephant, right? The AI elephant, right? Which Absolutely. Is in every market, but especially now, since we're talking about SEO, when it comes to Gen AI, I almost want to start with a word association with you, Ricky, to go,
hey, sorry for the interruption. We're going to get back to our show in one quick second, but stay with me. If you're in the need for anything SEO and or link building related, you need to do yourself one quick favor. You need to go to the website that's on the screen right now, stanventures.com. Go there, tell them Steve-O sent you. The rest will take care of itself. Trust me. You can thank me later.
Gen AI and SEO, you think, what comes to mind?
Oh, I don't know. It scares me. I don't have a word, I don't think, careful or something like that. Like there's use cases for it, but I don't think it's like the traditional way you think about it. I never would go to ChatGPT as somebody who, has years of experience in SEO. Like I wouldn't ask it to do things that I already know how to do. I use it in ways where I don't know 100% of what I'm asking it. So, for somebody who doesn't understand SEO, it's definitely a great option for them to ask it, ChatGPT, to like write a title tag or, write a meta description. But for me, that's not how I use it. I think, we've been building tools with ChatGPT for our clients. An example would be, or actually it was something we did for the Socium, or we're actively doing for the Socium site, is building a schema generator to allow somebody to come to the website, plug in the type of schema that they want, plug in the details. And we're using that as like a tool to drive traffic to the Socium site ultimately. But I built it 100% with ChatGPT. I think that's a great use case. I'm not a coder, but it assists in that.
You mentioned a Chrome extension too, right?
Yeah. So I've built a number of Chrome extensions with ChatGPT. It's unbelievably easy once you have a basic understanding of how to set up like your environment and how to use a code editor and, things like that. I think that's the daunting piece for a lot of people would be like, how do you just work within a particular language, right? ChatGPT could kind of tell you how to do that. But once you've gotten step A down, you know how to work in the environment. Step B is then coming up with an idea, prompting ChatGPT properly in order for it to write some code, and then, copy and pasting that code into your code editor. So it's been really easy for me to kind of develop these Chrome extensions, one of which was an SEO specific extension that I actually use pretty regularly. A task that is kind of, tedious, I would say, would be like copying and pasting copy from a website into a Word document when I go to optimize the content for SEO, add in additional keywords, add in internal links, format headings. Historically, it would take time for me to copy and paste all of the different stylings and things like that into a Word document. Ultimately built a Chrome extension that formats the document for me, and I'm able to just export to a Word document by the click of a button, and that saves time. So I've learned ways to be more efficient in what I'm doing, utilizing ChatGPT, which I think is like a little bit more of like a contrarian way of using ChatGPT.
I guess. I get asked all the time, and I talk to marketers all the time. And look, I say a couple things. One, AI is a tool, and it's in your toolbox with the other tools, right? And you never get too reliant or dependent on any one tool. So that's how, when people ask me, oh, is AI going to take over? No, it's going to enhance and help your productivity, automate certain things. Because I know you use it to write scripts, right? Whatever your use case is, AI can be a phenomenal tool, but it's a tool. It's not the replacement.
Yeah, 100%. I think where I see a lot of people using ChatGPT, or like how it's been, I don't know, the initial thought process was like, oh, we could just write copy with ChatGPT. I could have it write a blog post or something like that. And like, sure you can. But, I guess what I was saying is like saying it was like maybe contrarian is people are using it for things that might not be the best way to use it. And they need to use it as a way to like assist what they already are doing more efficiently.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
SEO strategies in general. I know my audience would be really interested in hearing not only what worked for the company, but just in general. And I know you're a big believer. Talk about that. I should be slapped because this is such an old phrase, but it's still true. Content is still king.
Yeah, I know. I wrote that as a note, knowing that, I've been hearing that forever. Right.
Yep.
But, and I'm sure you've said it a million times, but it's still true. We write content for all of our clients. I mentioned it already, but it's a big ongoing task that we're doing for our clients. For some, we're writing a little bit. For others, we're writing a lot. But it's no matter the size, like we're contributing additional content to their site. Writing helpful content is what's more important. And if you look in like the Google developer docs right now, there's multiple articles on helpful content, what to include in those posts. So for us, it's just been, making sure that we write content that follows those principles, has an author bio, has, the date it was published. Some websites still don't have that. Making sure that we're answering the questions. If we're reviewing a product, how did we go about reviewing it? Who reviewed it? Why did they review it? What was the criteria when they were reviewing the particular product? So that's a big piece of what we've been doing. I always think it's like when you ask somebody a question and they give you an answer, like whether you believe them or not comes down to like what you know about them. Who are they? Are they a credible person? Do they know what they're talking about? And the same thing is what Google is ranking content on Google. So you need to be able to like give all of those signals that you are a credible business or writer of that particular topic in order for them to actually rank it highly and for people to believe you.
So you use I want to make sure, because I'm interested in what you said, refreshing old content we talked about offline. My first question to that is, does that mean going into a previously written piece of content? Or I guess let me start here. What's the difference between refreshing and repurposing?
Between refreshing and repurposing. Refreshing, in my perspective, refreshing is going back to old content that's already been written and rewriting it with updated information if things have changed. Okay. So if there's new sources for a particular piece that you wrote, if there's been changes, a lot of times things are dated, best marketing practices of 2022 and it's 2024. What's changed since then? We typically go through all of that content, whether it's dated or not, and we refresh it. And we've seen really great results refreshing old content so that it's updated, it's relevant to whatever is happening today, and then actually changing the published date of that particular post.
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah. For those not familiar, when they go into like a blog post from 3 years ago and go, okay, I need to refresh this. What should they do? Did they change the title? They change the pub date? Like what for those not familiar with this process?
Yeah. So we rewrite whatever content needs to be rewritten. Typically I'll recheck keywords for that particular post to make sure we're still targeting the right keywords. I'll see what we're already ranking for, what we're not ranking for, and whether we need to actually change it or not. With that, then, if we need to target a new keyword, we're updating the title tag. If there's a date in the title tag, we're removing the date. We've been kind of erring more towards evergreen content versus like dated content. But if there is a date, we'll update that. Updating the published date, though, is critical. So we had actually run a test where we kept the original published date, but then we added a line to the top of the post that said like this piece of content was refreshed on XYZ date.
Right.
And we found that actually updating the published date and not having that line like led to extreme increase in clicks and impressions. So actually changing the published date and updating that on the particular post again, was more beneficial than keeping the old published date and adding a modified date.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So that's something we've kind of been pushing out to a lot of our, the clients that we've been working with. We historically were saying like modified on XYZ.
Right.
And now we're just changing the date.
I would think the same thing, just to alert the reader.
Oh no, that's it. I was just going to agree with you again.
What are your now let's talk about repurposing content.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
So it depends. There's been cases where we repurpose blog posts and kind of make them into landing pages or vice versa, depending on what the intent is of the particular search. So historically, looking at keyword intent, you would have to like make a Google search and see what web pages were showing up on the search engine results page and kind of like decipher, okay, these are product pages, these are blogs, this is, whatever else it might be. And then we would write content based on whatever the intent of that search was, or try and get that particular page to rank for that search. Repurposing content, we kind of do it in a way where if the intent is off, we'll switch the type of, whether it's a landing page or a blog, the type of page that we're actually trying to target for that particular keyword.
Okay. Will you I know a lot of people have the belief, and I guess it's correct. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert, but taking like if you have a long form piece of content, like an ebook or a white paper, and slicing that into multiple blog posts, for example, as a way to repurpose.
Yeah, we do that. I would say we also do the reverse, taking small blog posts, and we've been building out much longer form content recently, and then linking to those smaller posts. Okay. Again, depending on the intent, whether the user is looking for something more comprehensive or looking for like a quick answer. So yeah, we have been repurposing things that way.
I think so many companies, sorry to interrupt you, because I've done content audits at different stops in my career, or just in a consultative role in the past. 9 times out of 10, when I do a content audit of a given company, I find stuff that they didn't even know. Two things. One, they didn't know was still out there, like in the ether, right? And two, it's still really evergreen content that we could very easily repurpose and or refresh.
Yep.
I think the majority of companies, just in general, and I hate to make generalizations, but I think the majority of companies who have blogs and content and everything else just pile on, right? And then the next thing you know, you have 2, 3, 5 years worth of content that's just sitting out there in the internet, data files, if you will.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when, you repurpose something from individual blogs to a long form article, you're just continuing to build your credibility, really like focusing on whatever niche you're talking about, showing Google that you're an authority. So it's beneficial from a linking perspective, for moving the user around. Yeah. Super important.
Absolutely. So final thought, I'm going to ask you to put your prognosticator hat on, and it can be, I would assume, would be inherent of AI, because AI is not going anywhere, but just the future of SEO. Because one of the things that I'm finding interesting is, and I was just having this discussion with someone about, is Google, losing some of its, not luster, but we know YouTube's been a search engine forever, right? But to me, that's Google. It's one of the same. But now things like TikTok, people are using that as a search. Now ChatGPT is coming out with search, right? So where do you see the future? Is Google will always be the dominant? Just talk to us about the future of search and SEO.
I think it's interesting. I think Google will always be the dominant for the time being, short, 5-10 years. I think it takes time for people to move. There's plenty of people who might switch to TikTok, but it's definitely a certain demographic. There's plenty of people that are going to switch to the ChatGPT search. Of course, that's like another demographic, but a large portion of people are going to stay with what they know. There's still people using Bing. There's still people using Google. So I think it'll be a long transition. I think ChatGPT is super interesting. I think the data available is still really limited for somebody like myself to like be researching all of these AI terms. So as that grows, I think those particular engines will become more popular. Once we really understand, right now we can make assumptions of how AI, is actually ranking particular content and coming up with the answers. And some tools are starting to include that information. Like Ahrefs just added like AI overview as a SERP feature and things like that, where you could see that. But a lot of what we're doing, I think, is going to stay relatively the same, because that's what these engines are are using to build, their databases and whatnot. I think how we utilize, again, ChatGPT to evolve SEO will be interesting. I mentioned it earlier, but like we're starting to build more tools for clients and get people to, find these tools, find like a singular page that could rank for multiple, different keywords and get them there, get them to interact with the tool, get them to then sign up for whatever product. So outside of like your traditional content and things like that, there's like, other things that we've been using ChatGPT to try and create. We've also been using it to scale. So we build a lot of glossary content for our clients. It's something I found that works really, really well in order to, rank for many keywords related to a particular niche and answer informational searches. So what we've been doing is integrating ChatGPT with Google Sheets, putting in a bunch of glossary terms related to a particular client, drag and dropping a formula, down the sheet, which basically asks ChatGPT to create a definition for that particular term. And we're able to build out glossary terms for, many thousands or more.
Interesting.
Yeah. So like we've been able to scale as like a smaller team using it in ways, but I mean, I'm going to stick to the core, strategies at the moment, right? Good content. That's what's filling ChatGPT.
The basics. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, my friend, I knew this was going to fly by. What a great conversation. You are so educating, engaging, entertaining. I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome. Great to meet you again. And I've enjoyed my time.
Hey, I'm the guy from the video you just saw. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Now do yourself a favor. If you haven't already, subscribe to our content. Believe it or not, unconfirmed rumors and reports, you will see an increase in 20% in organic traffic just by subscribing. Okay, maybe not, but it's fun, right? But do yourself a favor, really. Subscribe to our content. You won't be sorry. Thanks.
What I've done is I've kind of like found ways to use common products and call them something else.
I love that. Don't reinvent it.
I work with clients who typically have a team of developers, but they have other priorities. For us to show a return on their investment in a short amount of time and not have to wait on their team to implement was important at the time. There's plenty of people that are going to switch to the ChatGPT search. Of course, that's like another demographic, but a large portion of people are going to stay with what they know.